What's going on, my boxing brothers and sisters? Another edition of Major Key Monday. Today, our special guest, Rick Glazier. What's going on, brother? How you been?
Oh, not bad. I'm glad to have me back. I haven't been on for about six, about mostly about 7, 8 months now, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad to be back, and I'm glad you're feeling better, and of course Troy and everybody else here, and it's a enjoy being on your podcast like I do a couple others.
Thank you so much, man. Yes, we appreciate you being back on. Had you here last year, had you a couple times since then, and you're right, it's been since probably January the last time.
Yep.
And we've been a little bit out of commission, so I appreciate you coming back. We have Troy here as well. What's going on, Troy? How you feeling?
Oh, everything's blessed, man. Everything's blessed. How's everybody?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, brother. Appreciate you being here as well, man. So let's start off first and foremost. Rick, for the people that don't know you, man, let them know your resume, man. Let them know your resume.
I my business is called glazerboxing.com. I'm a 24/7, 365 worldwide provider of quality supplemental services to the professional boxing business worldwide. I've been doing it since 1991. I've been in 31 years in business. In January 1st, it'll be 32 years in business. And I broker deals every day, and I'm expert witness in lawsuits. I render advice to a lot of corporate advice to TV networks, streaming companies, anything, casinos, anything to do with professional boxing. And that's what I do, and been doing it. I'm a New York State Hall of Fame inductee. I'm an elector in Canastota. That means a voting member in Canastota at the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Been an expert witness in 34 boxing lawsuits over the years. Just anything to do with white collar and boxing, that's what I'm involved. I supply the largest supplier of sparring partners in the world. I broker deals for our fighters with promoters every day, settle disputes, anything I can do to help facilitate, other people's boxing business.
That's what's up. Now, just for if your ears didn't capture that, ladies and gentlemen, he said Boxing Hall of Fame. All right, just so you guys could get that into your ears, into your mind.
New York State. I'm not in the Hall of Fame yet in Minnesota, but
New York State. So basically, Madison Square Garden, New York State. Rick Glazer's up
right. Right. Was hopefully someday Canastota, because all the members of the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame that vote for the Hall of Fame vote in Canastota, and I'm an elector in Canastota now, so that's a good head start too. So hopefully it will someday it'd be inducted in Canastota.
That's what's up. Well, before we start jumping into the questions here, because I know Troy's probably got some questions, but I want to know first and foremost, since we've had you on a year ago, and then the last time we spoke was probably earlier this year with Freeway.
Yeah, January. It was definitely January. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah. So that was the last time we spoke. But here's the thing: since then, I'm hearing I don't know, man, like a lot of rubbing Rick's name the wrong way. I don't understand what's going on. Like there's people saying comments about this and this and that just because you speak your mind the way you like to speak your mind. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having opinions and especially in a hypothesis, which is an educated opinion because you're in the business. So Rick Glazer's in the business. He gives his opinion. He doesn't, he doesn't feel bad about his opinion because he's just trying to be honest. So what's going on? What do you think is going on with everyone?
There's words in the dictionary called jealous and envy and envious. And I think that those comments coming from those people, and that's what it is really. I mean, I speak from experience, knowledge, power, and expertise. And they think they know what they're seeing because they understand the sport. The sport and the business of boxing, I wrote it on Twitter today, are totally two different things. If you think you know the sport and the sport of boxing and the business of boxing, you don't. If you actually do think that, you don't know the business of boxing because it's totally different than the sport. The sport is what people see on TV. The business is what goes on behind the scenes. The fighters are not in the business, and the trainers are not in the business. The promoters that are in the business full time. The matchmakers that are in the business full time. The professional managers who are in the business full time. not just managers, but the professional ones. They're in the business. Okay. And the broker, the international brokers is myself, the consultants, they're in the business. It's a business and the sport are two different things. The people that are commenting about me are people that watch boxing on TV. They talk about it on a podcast, on the internet and stuff, but they're not in the business. They don't understand what happens in the back room. They don't understand what happens in front of a meeting with executives from a network. They don't understand what happens in negotiations with the WBC, the BA, the BO, and the IBF. They don't understand the manipulating, and I don't mean manipulating in a bad sense. Maybe maneuvering is a better word. And they don't understand the maneuvering that goes on with these organizations. They don't understand the negotiations that go on in fights. They know what they see on TV, so they think they know because they know they can pick a winner in a fight. Or they saw a fighter 4 years ago that was a 4-round fighter. They said, oh, he's going to be a world champ someday, and the guy becomes a world champ. It's not even their fighter, it's a fan, and all of a sudden they know the business. No, that's a sport. The business is totally different than the sport. And I've fused the sport and the business together. And I majored in the beginning in the sport, and then I shortly thereafter, when I felt I was well grounded, I started in the business, and I've majored in that, and that's what makes me the person that I am. But people that watch boxing on TV and comment on podcasts and think they know the sport. I'm not questioning that, but they don't know the business. The business and the sport are completely two different things. Many people have been very successful in boxing in the sport. They're not successful in the business. Happens frequently.
I'm glad you elaborated on that, because this is one of the reasons when I speak boxing, I speak about what I see in the boxer. I talk about the style. I talk about what their strengths are, what their influence or areas of weakness are. I talk about those things. I don't talk about the business because I'm not in the business. And I'll never act like I'm in the business. Even if I hear from someone that's in the business, someone gives me a little tidbit of information, I can't go out on a limb and try to, elaborate on that, because I know that everybody's going to say, hey, but what about this? But what about this? And I don't know those details. So it's not worth me even trying to mention it.
When Troy and I first talked a long time ago, years ago, he said to me, I know the sport, talking about himself. He says, you know the sport and the business, and you've shown everybody what the difference is. And Troy was smart enough to recognize that. And that's one of the reasons why I've always gotten along with Troy. People don't understand the difference. And it's a major, major, major difference. There's not even, that's why I always tell trainers tell these fighters, oh, you don't need a manager. You don't need a manager. If you were managing the fighter, the guy wouldn't be making any money. Okay. Because you don't know how to negotiate with a promoter. See, this is what happens. I'm going to explain to everybody this right now. Let's say a manager has 8 fighters, and he's got 2 signed up with that promoter, and he's got 6 fighters that are free agents. And he could say to a guy, listen, you give me, instead of giving me 100,000 for this guy, you give me 125 for this guy. I'll give you an additional 6 months on your contract, or an additional fight on your contract as an option if he wins. And this guy here, my fighter's going nowhere, he's coming off a loss. I'll throw him to your guy, okay, and I'll do it for a reasonable amount of money. Those are the things that the people don't see.
Right. All right, man. Well, look,
that's minor. That's minor.
Right. But you give it an example. No, I appreciate it, because I do want to kind of build on that. But I'll pass it off to Troy. But G Funky's in the chat. He says, "What's up?" Tell Rick I said what's up. So
G Funky's a favorite of mine, no question. Good man, quality guy.
Go ahead, Troy. Troy, you there?
He's cooking. I know
He's always cooking.
I know that. That's why I said it. That's why I always.
Well, shit,
I
man,
said-
I'm here, brother. I'm here. Just had a little delay.
I was on the phone with Troy one time, and Troy says I'm cooking. I said I wish I could, and he was telling me what he was cooking. I said I wish I could smell it right now. So
Yeah. Well, what's up? What's up, Rick? Good to see you again. Right?
thank you.
I could have swore I just spoke to you last week.
You did.
I know, brother. I know. But listen. I'm gonna stay away from the other subject matter because I already had that conversation with you, right? Let's talk about the fight that's coming up. Triple G and one Mr. Alvarez. Is it a blockbuster or is it a busted fight?
It's dead on arrival. It's got no steam. Nobody knows it's happening. This is how I can tell if a fight's hot or not. Okay, there's three ways. On a Monday before the fight, there was no talk of it today on Twitter or Facebook. Okay, almost zero. Okay, I threw something out there, got very little response about GGG and Canelo. I have three brother-in-laws. Okay, I'm sorry, two brother-in-laws and a nephew. And I have more than that, but what I'm saying is to you that these particular three will call me up on a Monday. Hey, should I get the pay-per-view? Is it worth it? What do you think? Who's going to win? Nobody called me today. Not a good sign. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is everybody realizes that it's anybody, that this fight was at 160 pounds the first time. GGG never moved up in weight. He's still the champion at 160 in the WBA and the IBF. And he's 40 years old now. And Canelo, even though he lost to Bivol, that was style. It doesn't mean he's shot because he's not. That was just style. It was too tall, jumping around on his feet, and it was the wrong style. This is not the wrong style. This guy's 40 years old, had 400 amateur fights, got a lot of wear and tear on the tires, been a pro for a long time. And Canelo is at a peak weight for him at 68, and that's where the fight's being fought. And GGG's a 60-pounder. He's 40 years old, got a lot of wear in the tires. And the other thing is Canelo is peaking now at his age 31, literally peaking. Okay, forget about the loss. The loss doesn't count. It's the style. That was styles. That wasn't because he was not at the top of his game. It was just a wrong style. He jumped in and out. He never really tried to fight Canelo. He jumped in, jumped out, and jumped around, and that's what caused the one-sided decision. The height, the foot speed, the height, jumping in and out, all that combination. But that's not GGG. GGG's a walk-in banger, walk-in boxer, and he's 40 years old, got a lot of wear and tear in the tires. He's going to be undersized as far as thickness goes and strength. And I don't feel it's going to be as good a fight as it was in the first two fights. And I can see a very late stoppage in the fight, favoring, of course, Canelo, or the fight going the distance just on pride and maybe GGG holding on at the end to get through the fight. I think a moral victory is going the distance in this fight. I don't see it as – I just don't see GGG winning.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rick. No fighter wants a moral victory. I can tell you that much.
No, but I think because you got to remember something.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to win this fight to remain WBA and IBF middleweight champ. So after this, he still can go back to his middleweight title and defend that. So, and I'm sure he's got a comeback fight already in the wind as part of the deal with the Zone. And I think that was part of the deal making this fight. They'll definitely televise this next middleweight fight. And that's, like I said, part of the business and part of the negotiations. So it's not do or die for GGG. He's not going to lose his titles. He's still going to be in a big fight after this for very good money. So he doesn't have to have that gumption to win, even though he will, but he will play it safe late in the fight if he's getting shelled. I don't think he's going to go for it like he should because of the fact that he's still middleweight champion. He can still go back and defend that title.
All right, Rick. Last question. Why is Triple G still around? Is it the pay or the passion? And if he's on his last leg like this, why isn't Charlo pushing to get that fight?
I'm gonna start out by explain. We'll go to Charlo in a second. Let's finish up with the GGG part itself. GGG's got a lot of pride. He's still champ at 160, so he's got 2 to 3 more paydays, including this fight, left in him, and that's a lot of money. I mean, you're talking about probably 25, 30 million for this fight. I don't know. I'm not in on negotiations, but it's got to be 25 or 30 million. He's probably going to have a $10 million comeback fight. So let's just go with minor figures, the little figures of 25 and 10. Let's not go with 30. That's 35 million for 2 fights. By the time he pays his taxes and pays all his people, let's say he nets $20 million on that money. That's a lot of money. That's why he's still fighting. It doesn't matter how much money he's already got. Another $20 million for generational wealth. That's a lot of money. Going to Charlo.
Before you jump to Charlo, though, I just want to mention as far as did you see a little bit of loss in his step with Murata? Because I saw him kind of
early on.
Yeah, it looks like his knees are not completely there anymore. Yeah,
100. His legs are not there 100%. But Murata was pretty shot too. He's 37, 36, 37 himself. He had a ton of amateur fights, and he had a long layoff of 2.5 years because of the COVID and an injury that he had. So he wasn't the same fighter. But if he was the same fighter that he was, he would have beaten GGG that night. Okay.
Going back to Charlo, my bad. I just wanted to say
going back to the Charlo situation. They call the Charlo brothers the Charlo twins. They may look alike. They may be alike outside the ring, but Jermell, the GERMELL, the 154-pound undisputed junior middleweight champ, has got balls down to his ankles. The 160-pound Charlo, his heart ain't the size of a pea or a dime, and there's a huge difference. The 54-pound Charlo, Jermell, JERMELL, he'll fight anybody Godzilla. Okay, he's got gumption, he's got heart, he's what a fighter is supposed to be. The brother, he's what a fighter's not supposed to be. He's another Andrade, Demetrius Andrade, 2 heartless pigs that won't fight anybody. I hate to say that. I'm not putting fighters down. I'm just saying to you, that's the difference between the 2 Charlo brothers. One is just completely gutless, and the other one's got balls down to his ankles. So I don't even call them twins. I call them the Charlo brothers, because they're not twins. Because one got all the heart, one got none.
Good stuff, Rick. I tell you what, after you made that, what did you say, the heartless pig comment?
Yeah.
I guarantee you that your phone gonna be ringing from all the fake woke people. I heard what you said, Rick. I heard what you said. You're a racist. I heard what you said about Charlo.
With that being
it's not racist. It's not racist. The brother got all the heart. The brother got all the heart. Jermell, come on.
With that being said, man, what nationality is your beautiful wife?
She's black.
All right then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Well, let me put it this way to you. Okay, what bothers me a little bit is that people say, well, you could be a racist and still be married to a black woman. I said, well, wait. If I was a racist, I would have never bothered to meet my wife.
That's right.
Okay, that's number 1, let alone fall in love, number 2. Okay, number 3 is, okay, my best man at my wedding was black. My former attorney, until he passed away, okay, he was black. Okay. Don King is like a father to me. Okay. I don't know where to start and stop, but there's no racism. I'm a donor to the inner city community. Black and Hispanic at the holiday times for gift certificates to a top supermarket in the area called Wegmans. They're all over the Northeast. Get people gift cards to feed their whole families for Christmas and Thanksgiving and Christmas. So there's no racism in me. They say that I'm racist. Why? Because I'm white and I'm a Republican. I'm a Republican because of business reasons. Okay, not because that I'm against black people, against Hispanics, against minorities. Okay, it's just the way it is. Okay, and there's no racism in me whatsoever. You know, and my wife thinks it's hilarious. Don King is I told him he was falling all over the place. So I'll tell you a great story about Don King and I going back to 2006. Great story. We're at the Hyatt or Grand Hyatt, whatever it is, in Phoenix, Arizona. We're getting ready for a fight. We're doing a press tour, and we're at the bar at the Hyatt, Grand Hyatt, whatever it was. We're staying there, and there's 8 beautiful women over there, and they all have business suits on. Hispanic, black, white, everything. So they called Don King, come on over here. So it's a very long bar. They were at the other end. They're at the bottom of the L. We're in the top. He goes down there, and about 7-8 minutes later, Don yells, "Slick Rick, come on down here." So I go down there. And I walk into an avalanche because you guys know how bombastic that Don King can be. He says, "My main man, Slick Rick, he's a lover of black and white. He's a lover of black and white alike." And I said, "Don, let's not leave Hispanics out." Well, everybody was on the floor. 6 of the women were falling all over the place. The other 2 had their mouths open. They were dropped. Just what Don said. Yeah. And make a long story short. That's just, I'm a very open person, and I'm as open as it can get. I mean, on anything social media, one of the press calls me social media, I answer every question. Truthfully, there's nothing that I hold back. I don't hold back anything about anybody. And then I get accused of racism. Why? I don't know. It's crazy. So, well, you're always putting down black fighters. I said, putting down black fighters. My favorite fighter right now is Terrence Crawford. And minority fighters in general. And my second favorite fighter right now is Bam Rodriguez. And my third is Inoue. One's Asian, one's Hispanic, and one's black. What can I tell you?
Yeah, that's one of the things I want. That's why I wanted you to elaborate on that, because here's the thing. You're so kind to everybody. I noticed that you do your rounds. I see you on all these different YouTube channels, always accepting the invitation, always out here willing to give people your time. And then for them to try to one up you or something like that, or, try to catch you off guard because if you disagree, that's fine. Just disagree. But Rick's got his opinions. He's in the business. It's just, disagree respectfully. That's the way I see it, because like you said, this weekend, nobody's bringing any steam to the fight, right? But who do we have on the undercard? We got Bam Rodriguez. We you know what I'm saying? We have Gabe Rosado. We have Diego Pacheco. We have Ammo Williams. We have Mark Castro. These are all on the undercard this weekend. But nobody's talking about that. They're talking about
the problem, excuse me for interrupting, the problem when you have such polarizing names as Canelo and GGG, everybody forgets about the undercard. Unless you're an absolute diehard, then the card is going to be bought on whether they want to see a third GGG and Canelo fight, not on the undercard. Now the diehard, that's a different story. The problem is most diehards know how to steal the pay-per-view. So that's an issue in itself.
That's true.
It's not stealing, Rick. It's only stealing, when you get caught.
That's right. That's the famous line there. The guy said the guy robbed the house, and he says, "How many houses have you robbed in your life?" And the guy said, "This is the first one." He says, "There's no way you just got caught the first time. There's not a chance.
Yeah, man.
You're probably up to 80 or 90."
We get 5-finger discounts. That's all we get. These are discounts.
Yep. Yeah, I was a little kid, and a real little kid, and I was like, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, and I was in the store with my father on a Saturday, and we were getting some things, and the bad weather. We live in Buffalo, so the bad weather is moving in, so we're basically going to get about 3 days worth of food. So we're in there, and I says, Dad, I think that guy's stealing that stuff there. He says, shut your mouth. You didn't see a thing. And I've always lived like that.
Hey,
Ask Rick if he heard anything about the numbers for Reese. I was supposed to today, and my guy didn't come back from vacation yet. Hopefully have him tomorrow. But it isn't good. I know that because so few people bought it. I could tell by just the feeling of who bought it and who didn't buy it. It didn't do well.
When is the last time the PBC had any good numbers?
I don't even remember. Probably the half the show with the second Fury Wilder fight with 875,000 buys was probably the best they've done in a long time, in years, probably.
Rick, let me ask you this: what do you think about is it a big deal, or is it not a big deal that the fight got canceled between Conor Benn versus Eubank? And I'm not really sure. I just heard that.
Well, they say it might be on yet. They don't know yet. Mm-hmm. They're trying to work it out because there's two issues here. There's the 57-pound weight, and there's the rehydration clause, which has probably, I assume, a 10-pound limit. Now, I'm not looking at the contract, but I assume it's a 10-pound limit. I don't know where they're at right now. I haven't followed it. I heard the rumor at 4:00 in the morning from one of my people in the UK when I called over there about something else that it was already going on. Because remember, there's a 5-6 hour difference, so it's already into the day over there. 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. So, we don't know if it's going to be on or off yet, but I would suspect it's going to be on with probably a few modifications. Money, more money to, maybe more money to Eubank, and keep the same terms, the same weight, and the same GI. Maybe some more money to Conor Benn, or more, and the weight goes up to like 59 or something like that. Maybe a rehydration clause of 12 pounds or something like that. I don't know, but obviously I'm not in on it. But right. So, I think the fight will still happen. I just can't. There's too much money there not to happen, especially when Eubank is almost 33 years old and going nowhere fast. Don't forget, Ben's got the big future. He's got the big crowd behind him. He's got the zone behind him. Ben doesn't have. Eubank doesn't have much behind him.
Right. So one of the things I heard too was that Eubank Jr.'s brother, Eubank Sr.'s son, died in Saudi Arabia, and so that was a concern. That he didn't want his senior didn't want his son to go into a fight like that and potentially lose him. But at the end of the day, the way that I feel about that is like, well, if you're thinking about that right now, then you should have thought about that at the beginning. Like, you don't say that last minute. Like,
they signed the contract. They signed the contract knowing what the terms were.
Right.
The kid is not 18, 19 years old. He's 32 going on 33 years old.
Right.
He's a man.
Yeah.
At 32, 33, you should no longer be listening to your father.
Yeah.
Unless it's marriage advice, and he's been married for 40 or 50 years.
I agree. Troy, do you have a question before I move on? Because I want to ask him about some of the other fights.
It sounds to me like the same nonsense with Triple G, and Eubanks, where they pulled out at the last moment. I just think it boils down to they want what they want, even though they read the contract prior to, they saw the money, they saw the terms. Then they come to the witching hour and they're like, you know what? Maybe I could squeeze a little bit more juice out this orange. It don't work like that, man. Give the people what they want. Put the fight on and move on. I think that Ben's got a lot of advantages in this fight. Better on his feet.
Okay, and the weight favors him because he'll be loose at the weight, and the other guy will be drained. The rehydration clause favors him, obviously, Ben, and also because of the fact that he's young and fresh, where the other guy's a little on the back nine. And the other guy doesn't have Roy Jones working with him anymore for some reason or another. I don't know why him and Roy split up. I just found that out today. I didn't even know that. I mean, Roy improved him a lot from what I could see. So I don't know what they were thinking. Probably a save some money move is what it was.
Probably. So what do you think about all these cancellations lately, man? We've been seeing a lot of cancellations. I mean, thank God, as far as the females are concerned, they just delayed it. But
well, that's you know what, the Queen of England dying over there is like the current sitting president of the United States dying over here. I have no problem with them shutting the fight country down, and boxing for that reason, and other sports and whatever they had planned, and now they've rescheduled for October 15th. Now, just keep in mind that they rescheduled on that date to satisfy the ESPN part and the Sky TV part. It wasn't
Wilder
because
versus Helenius. I know.
What's that?
Deontay Wilder versus Helenius, same day.
Right. So there's a lot of fights that day. There's like 6 shows that day, big shows. So I have no problem with that. That cancellation is not a cancellation. It's just a delay of approximately a month. And you know what? Everybody get over it. You know what I'm saying? The ones I feel sorry for are the American fans that flew over there and spent thousands of dollars on airplane tickets, hotel rooms, and just going over there. Period. Those are the ones I feel bad for. The ones that spent their hard-earned money that don't have that kind of money to go back a second time, because people do have budgets. Normal Americans have budgets, and some people can't afford that. So those are the ones I feel sorry for. The women, they're going to get their money eventually. They're going to fight. They're going to get their money. The promoters, it'll cost them a little more money because they got to fly everybody back and they got to put up everybody in a hotel room again. But this is a multi-million dollar show, and those costs are very, very minimal. So I wouldn't worry about it. That's not a big concern.
Awesome. All right. So go ahead. Follow up, Troy.
You know what? I was listening to what you said about the people who flew over to the country and lost their money. Is there no way that they get a refund? Isn't there like some kind of clause?
No. They get a refund on the tickets,
right?
If they can't come back, but they can't get a refund on the travel and the hotel and the food they eat and the beverages the adult beverages they drink, because everybody goes to London, they're drinking adult beverages. Well, they're over there to have a good time.
Well, that's the cost of being a very loyal fan, or that's the cost of pirating the fight. You know what I mean? It makes you wonder, who's the smarter of the two?
Well, it happens. So, listen, who knew the Queen was going to die then? I mean, when they scheduled this fight, when the people bought their plane tickets, Troy, nobody said, the Queen's going to die. It's going to be called off. Nobody knew it. So shit happens,
That's the title right there. Shit happens. Absolutely.
Right.
So look, we spoke about Wilder Helenius. Is there any relevance to that fight? What do you think?
Well, if
happens based on that fight,
Fury was just through 19 rounds, and people gonna contradict me, and I'll explain myself in a second. He was through 19 horrendous rounds and ended up stopped in the first fight, and his ego and his pride got to him, and he fired Mark Breland. Then the second fight, he gets destroyed and gets face planted. Then he comes up with a million excuses and lies and everything else, and that Fury's cheating and all this other stuff. And I don't see where any of that helps his situation going forward in his state of mind. I don't think he'll be the same fighter physically or mentally. I think he's going to have less punch resistance, because history has proved that in fighters. And only a couple of fighters have come back with face plants in recent memory. Only Roberto Duran, after he fought Tommy Hearns, and that was 1984. He went on to win the middleweight championship of the world 5 years later. And Lennox Lewis, after he fought Rockman, Oliver McCall, and then Rockman. Well, Oliver McCall, he was standing up when he fought Rockman, and he revenged the rematch. But remember, those were face plants. They weren't beatdowns. He got caught, and he got okay, and that happened. But he wasn't getting beat up before that. This guy was getting beat up and tortured. And I just don't see where if he's not the fighter that he was, and he doesn't have the punch resistance, he doesn't have the reflexes, and his balance is worse than it already was before, this man's in trouble because Helenius is all there. He's always in great shape. He's a professional. He's coming off of 2 good wins over Adam Kanowski. And I just think that he's big and strong. He was a really good amateur. He knows how to box. And if Wilder is shot and doesn't catch him, he's in trouble. Wilder's going to be in trouble. He can be shot and still catch him, but we don't know what his punch resistance is going to be like. We don't know what happens when he gets pushed back with a jab and physically gets pushed back. We don't know what kind of balance he's going to have left, how much how much spring in his legs he's going to have. He might be on dead legs right now. So we don't know. But that should be a good fight.
You know what, Rick? I agree with everything you said because I've had so many discussions with people, and I said, you know, Wilder that fight should have been stopped in the 7th round, the last fight, right? It really should have been stopped in the 7th, 8th round. And we don't know if Wilder still has that fire in him. We don't know if he's gun shy or anything like that. And people take it like this, you know, when you get knocked out, it's quick, boom. But when you get beat round after round after round after round.
Right, exactly. You know what's the funny thing? What I was going to tell you was I was going to qualify what I said earlier. I said that was that so many people said, well, Wilder knocked him down a couple times in that fight too. I said, yeah, okay, so what? That doesn't mean he wasn't getting tortured. What does that have to do? What does Fury getting knocked down twice from Wilder have to do with Wilder getting tortured? So he scored 2 knockdowns. Okay, it doesn't help Wilder with his state of mind. You know, the physical regression that might be going on physically and mentally with him, and emotionally. We don't know that. So
exactly, you know, that all plays into a part of it. Like all the physical stuff we see, that's only 20%. Everything else is mental, it's emotional, and it's focused.
Yeah, don't forget punch resistance. You're down that much, and you're getting beat up that much and tortured. In those 2 fights, his punch resistance has to be a lot less than it was. It would have to be.
So, what do you think? And on the same note, what do you think about Joshua losing that second fight and the way that he responded afterwards?
Well, I think he was emotional afterwards, and he may have been a little concussed. And I'm not holding that against him because I think he could have been concussed. And if you're concussed, you're liable to say anything because that's part of being concussed.
Right.
I didn't think he was beat up, but I did think he lost the fight. But it was close. It was very, very close fight. I did not think he won the fight. Thought he lost, but he didn't get beat up. He got edged out. There's a big difference between being edged out and getting tortured.
Yeah, I mean, I agree because I did have the fight. I thought he did way better than what I expected him to do as far as his improvements. I love the way that he was shadowing the feints and, you know, kind of like with the head movement at the beginning of the fight. But he just couldn't sustain it over the 12 rounds, you know, so that's the thing. Usyk, this is natural for Usyk, so Usyk was able to maintain that for the full length of the fight.
Yep, I agree, 100%.
I agree too, but I'm glad you brought up Usyk. Where does he go from here, Rick? Where does he go? Because I don't think Fury's available.
I think that Fury's going to end up fighting Joshua or somebody real soft next. and then they'll fight next spring, but they won't fight in February. If Tyson Fury fights in November or December, there's no way he fights in February. He won't fight till April or May. Okay, and Usyk was probably going to sit that out because he's got an injury anyways, and he said he couldn't fight in November and anyway, so he'll probably sit it out till then.
Sit it out and wait for who? Who's he fighting next? You know,
for Fury.
He wants Fury. Troy. He said if he doesn't get Fury, he might as well retire.
Yeah.
Well, he's not going to retire, but that's all we do with fighters. If I don't get such and such, I'm going to retire. And the manager looks at him and says, "Shut the fuck up." That's, and maybe in Ukrainian this time he says, "Shut the fuck up."
Okay. Well, listen. Why is Fury always playing these games? Why didn't he's supposed to be the best heavyweight in the world, right?
Here's why. Okay. He does it to play with people's mind. He's a natural promoter, and he does it to bust people's balls and keep his name out there every day and a way to get on the internet and talk. Now, just to let you know, I don't agree with all that. Hold on. What does this guy here, this fine gentleman, say? If Usyk is injured, which I keep hearing, then what's the problem when Fury fight AJ First? There is no problem. It may happen, or Fury's going to fight somebody else. What do I think? I think that he keeps his name out there intentionally. He does it that way. He wants to play with people's minds and get their reaction on social media, on podcasts, on comments, and everything, and he gets off on it. It's a hide for him. That's all. It's just he's too brilliant to be crazy. How's that one?
He sounds like a modern day charlatan. You remember them guys?
Well, put it this way there.
Yeah.
He's fighting for free one day. One day he's donating his money to the homeless. One day he won't fight unless he gets $500 million. One day he's just retiring unless he gets $500 million. I mean, there isn't $500 million. If he fought Joshua and Joshua had 3 belts and he had the other one, there wouldn't be $500 million in the fight. There would be $200 million in the fight, 250 maybe, but not 500. He knows these figures don't exist. He knows it. Okay. And listen, Frank, whether he's still, hold on. What's guys? Why do people keep believing everything Fury says? 500 million. Not even Fury believes that BS. Right. He just does it to get people's reaction, Jeff. That's all he does. And he does it about everything he said. I'm retiring. I'm unretiring. 500 million. I'm fighting for free. I'm giving my money to the homeless. I don't need money anymore. I do this for fun. I don't want to fight anymore. I mean, he gives so many mixed signals. You think he's boxing version of Sybil. Remember Sybil? Hello?
I remember that. I remember that vividly because that's my mother's name, and I remember. Yes, yeah,
right. He's boxing version of Sybil. So what can you say? But he just does it. It's a fun thing for him. He just gets off on it.
I remember Sybil. I just didn't want to admit it because that would make me seem old. So
there you go.
No, but you know what he reminds me of, Rick and Major. This is Fury. He's that dude that finds the farmers who are suffering from a drought and sells them a rainmaker. That's the dude that Fury is.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. I'm not going to tell you who said this, but I'll tell you a great line about Fury. To know him is to love him. To fight him is a motherfucker. And to hang around him, you got to be drunk. So there you go. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's definitely a character, man. He's a freaking 6 foot. He's a giant. Like to hang around a guy like that. But
realistically, outside the ring, he's a teddy bear.
Well,
I mean he's funny. I mean, how about the American Pie thing? After he beats Fury, Fury beats Wilder. He's got Bob Arum, 89, 90 years old, singing, and Frank Warren singing American Pie. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
The whole place was singing. I mean, it's just he's just a unique guy. That's all there is to it. Remember what you guys weren't around. You guys are too young to remember how Muhammad Ali was. 1 minute he's calling Joe Frazier An ugly Uncle Tom. He said, my ugly Uncle Tom. 1 minute he's saying he loved him, 1 minute he hates him. I mean, it was nuts. Every day it was something different.
That's
So
no,
Troy
because
and I
that
were actually talking about Muhammad
Yeah.
Ali yesterday and talking about how Sonny Liston shot at him and stuff like that, and how he used to call George Foreman like an ugly gorilla. You know what I'm saying? Like we were just talking about that yesterday, as a matter of fact. Because he used to try to get into people's heads. That's just the way Muhammad Ali was, man. I mean, I don't remember that, of course, because I wasn't there at the
Muhammad
time.
Ali saw Joe Frazier out on the street in New York City, not before their first fight, not like fight week, but like maybe a month before then. They were in New York for some kind of press thing, and he started shouting, "Okay, you're too ugly to beat me. Look how pretty I am. You're too ugly. You look like a gorilla." And everybody's looking at him like he's out of his mind. But today he's revered in death. So there you go.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Shout
man. Ali was the ultimate showman. When the lights were off, he was off. As soon as we turn on the lights, he's on.
I remember when he took the torch in the Atlanta Olympics. I remember shaking down the way. God bless.
Listen, America was crying. And
Yeah,
that was prior. Obviously, that was prior to 9/11.
Yeah.
They were crying over that.
I was too, man. I remember that. I remember watching him, man.
It was so sad.
Yep.
And they didn't even really show him. They showed his silhouette, which was even worse. I mean, it was scary. And he's sitting there shaking like, oh my God, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was sad. It really was. Nope, not even a question.
Then the bombing happened and all that. Yeah, man.
Yeah, 5 years later, the bombing in Atlanta. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you.
I just want to let you know, Graham. So we kind of got to the time limit. It's up to Rick now. How long he wants to stay, but we got to the time limit that I agreed to him on. But of course, you're more than welcome.
Keep going, guys. Why stop now?
No, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to, brother. I'm just trying to.
Does anybody really want to watch Seattle and the Broncos in football unless you're from those two cities? Come on now.
Well said. Well said.
I hope Seattle's winning. That's all.
Remember one thing. The Buffalo Bills, Dallas, the Raiders, and the Steelers, okay, have fans outside of their area.
I'm a Raiders
Seattle
fan.
and the Broncos do not have fans outside of their area. Don't ever forget that.
Right. So that's exactly why I want the Broncos to lose, because they're in my division. I'm a Raiders fan. I want the Broncos to lose. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, Rick, since we were talking about Wilder not too long ago, I want you to touch on this whole foolishness about Fury being a weight bully. They're freaking heavyweights. I mean,
there's no such thing as a weight bully in the heavyweight division. Just because Wilder has weak legs doesn't make the other guy a weight bully. What does this Jeffrey say now? I'm convinced people say they believe Fury's BS because they want to hate the guy. I'm a fan of his and don't take anything he says seriously. Perfectly well said. He's more funny than he is anything else.
Fury's that annoying cousin that comes over every now and then. You might love him, but at some point you got to tell him to turn it off.
Well, like somebody said, they had a great line about Fury. If he went by his public persona, you'd let him buy dinner, but you'd leave as soon as the dinner was over. You think, but by the time the dinner was over, you'd fall in love with the guy, so you wouldn't be leaving.
I would leave before the check comes. That would be
especially to feed him, especially to feed that guy. Jesus,
So Rick, all right. So we got through kind of the heavyweight conversations, right? And the cancel fight. Kambosos Devin Part 2. What do you think about that? And then the significance that it has in the lightweight division?
Well, the significance is I don't think that Haney will defend his title after he beats Kambosos. I really think he's going to move up to 140, especially with Josh Taylor relinquishing 3 out of the 4 belts he relinquished. So there'll be a lot of space up there for him. He may defend one more time. I don't think so. But in a rematch, 9 out of 10 times unless the other guy is a vicious puncher, the guy who's the better athlete wins because he can make the adjustments easier. And Haney is definitely the better athlete, and Gambosis is not a puncher. So I expect the same result. Now, if you're fighting a puncher, you beat a puncher, let's say you're a boxer and you outbox the puncher can win the second time because he's a puncher. But Gambosis doesn't have the artillery to stop the freight train, and that has good feet and good hand speed and good foot speed and a lot of agility. He just doesn't. He's not that built like that. And like I said, the athlete and the guy with the higher IQ could make the adjustments, and that's definitely Haney.
So let me follow up on that then. So in the same sense, do you feel that the PBC puts Gervonta Davis to fight the Pitbull Cruz again?
I don't think they have any choice. They have nothing else for him. They don't have any other opponents for him. They said they keep making the statement. Leonard Ellerby keeps making the crazy statement. We're only fighting PBC fighters. We're keeping it in house. Sign with us, and we'll put you in with the fighter. All that BS. So they're going to have no choice because he's a Mexican. He surprised everybody the first time he put up a good fight, and Mexicans buy pay-per-view. So they'll be interested to see how he does, and they'll get more pay-per-view buys, and Cruz will basically pay for himself.
Any follow-ups on that, Troy? Because if not, I want to talk about one other fight.
Well, Cruz is the one that surprised everybody. Everybody was laughing at him. Oh, he's small. He's slow of foot. Tank is actually fighting someone bigger than himself. He's going to wash him and knock him out. Surprise. It don't work that way. Because like I told you, as far as the physical goes, that's only 20%. The other 80% is the mental and then the emotional and everything else. And that's what Cruz is. He's just a little compact dynamite pit bull that won't stop coming. He will not stop coming.
Two words that get lost, has gotten lost in this era. That's ERA, is gumption and earnest. Okay, fighters show gumption and they're earnest in their training, they're working hard. Okay, and they show the gumption to win, they're capable of winning. Just like Gambosis was capable of winning with Teofimo because he had the gumption and he was in tremendous shape. And he caught Teofimo off because of all the COVID he had, the injury he had to the shoulder, the COVID, the delays, all the camps in and out, and he caught the fighter just right. That happens, but you got to have that. You got to treat yourself right and be earnest about your trade. That means work hard, be honest and earnest, and basically you got to have the gumption to win, and he had that gumption. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, his only fight plan is to come straight ahead and hurt you. That is his only fight plan. He doesn't have another one.
Nope. There's no plan B. And he doesn't break a fighter down well. If he doesn't get you out of there with a punch or two, okay, he can't break a guy down and grind him down. It's not that kind of guy. He tries to be Tommy Hearns when he should be more like Marvelous Marvin Hagler, who grounds you down. And where he's trying to be Tommy Hearns, he took you out with one punch. And he's not, and he's capable, but he's not doing it with the top fighters.
He's like a lesser skilled Troy Dorsey. Remember Troy Dorsey, who would just keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming.
Yeah, but Troy couldn't break a grape. That Troy. You might be able to break grapes, but not that Troy.
Man, as weak as I am right now, I have a problem breaking wind, brother. I'm telling you the truth.
We interviewed Troy too, man.
Troy didn't lose, but he's making a comeback.
So let me ask you this then. So talking about the Mexican style before and all that, Estrada Chocolatito. I'm hearing that it may be December 3rd, if it's not already locked in.
It's going to be a great fight. Anybody can win that fight. I wouldn't count either guy out. Both guys are capable of winning. I think Estrada's got a little bit of an edge, being younger and maybe fresher. But I think it's going to be a sensational fight like it was the last time. I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Okay. Graham, I want to ask him about some of the guys that we're going to be having in the future. So, do you have any questions before I jump into that?
No, sir. No, sir. You keep calling me Graham like we're in the military. No.
Yeah, man, I do that, man. My name is Major. So. All right, thank you, Graham. So listen, when it comes down to it, we're gonna have next week. I locked in Richie Popeye Rivera. He just fought Badu Jack.
I saw it.
Right. So I want to get your thoughts on, like, if you as a matchmaker, right? You as a matchmaker, him as well as Hasim Rahman Jr. because actually he's fighting Victor Belfort coming up, and I invited him on for next week as well. I wanted some of the younger crowd to come on next week. So Richie already said he's coming through, but Rahman is training, so he's going to try to make it, but it just depends on his schedule. So. With that being said, what would your insight be? What would your, and I'm going to welcome Bruce Gass, and I'm going to put you back on the full screen. Bruce, you can jump in right after he answers these questions. Salute to you, brother. I love my brother Bruce Gass over here. That's my man's right there. But what's called it? He'll throw in some questions as well. But thinking about you as a matchmaker, right? These young guys that are coming up. You have, again, Richie Popeye Rivera, you watch him, and also Hasim Rahman Jr. that just had this whole fallout with Jake Paul and, with the contractual whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care to get into details, just you as a matchmaker, knowing all of this stuff, what do you think? What would you suggest for those guys?
I think Rockman's coming off a knockout loss, and he should go back and retool and start over again, get a couple wins, get his confidence back, and then look for bigger fish after he's got 3 more wins, 2 to 3 more wins. Take 9 months away, fight every 3 months, away from the spotlight, small casinos, undercards, and get his feet under him after coming off that knockout loss to one of Tommy Morrison's kids back in the spring. Or late winter or whatever what it was. And that's what I would do with him.
All right. And what about Richie Popeye Rivera?
Well, he's got a promoter in Joe DeGuardia, and Joe's got to rebuild him. It's Joe's job to rebuild him as a promoter or release him. So let's see what he does. Richie's a good draw up in New England, so he should be able to be rebuilt and be put in position again. I like Richie's a good kid. It's good for boxing. I didn't think he won the fight. Many people thought he won the fight. I just didn't think he had the substance to win the fight. It was what it was. I thought he lost the fight. I thought the knockdown was the difference, and that's it.
I'm gonna go on record, not just because he's coming back here next week, but honestly speaking, I felt like he put on more of the aggression. And I feel like there were some rounds where he kind of like pulled back and he started letting off, and his inexperience showed, and which is one of the things I was going to talk to him about next week. But
he was never any more than an 8-rounder his whole career. The most rounds he ever won was 8 rounds scheduled for.
Exactly.
He was never in 10-round fights. He wasn't developed properly.
Yeah.
I'll leave it like that.
Yeah. No. And I'm not going to debate that. And that's why I say, like, that's why I want to talk to him about that. But I did. Me personally, I felt he might have edged it out, if not a draw. You know what I'm saying? I felt like, but there's a difference of opinion. There were some swing rounds because it was on both ends. There were like it was somewhat of a lackluster performance on both ends. Badu wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. Richie wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. There were some areas of improvement in every single round. From beginning to end, where it was just like, wow, you could definitely do way better than that. What's going on here? So and that goes on both ends, right? So, but he's the one taking a step up. So you look at Badu Jack with all of his experience and looking at everybody that he's faced. I just felt like for this young kid, he's showing more of an uphill promise.
Let me say this to you. He looked good. He just didn't do enough to win. There's a difference.
Okay, I got you.
He didn't embarrass himself, that's for sure.
Hey, we on that one we will agree to disagree, but I think it was close, just like you do. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, Bruce, go ahead, brother.
Oh no, man! Just it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I've seen you on Malachi show before, and different channels, and you're very educated in boxing. You know, I kind of like the way you go, and I'm I just jumped on here. Major Key dropped me the invite, and I've been watching boxing since the late '60s.
No, and when he says the late 60s, he's talking about BC, the late 60,000 BC. He's an old fart, this guy, but no, he knows everything about boxing.
Well, no, believe me, I'm humbled when I come on here and I realize what a casual I am, because when I was in my business years, I wasn't as involved in boxing now, but I retired several years ago, and now I found the internet. I found this communication. There's people like me that.
Where are you from, Bruce?
I'm from Rhode Island, bro.
Okay, very nice. I like Vinny's a friend.
Yeah. I've spoken with Vinny a couple of times. Nice guy, man. Love him. I watched him fight Joe Frazier Jr. I saw him when his comeback, when he went to there's a place called Rocky Point, and he took on three local guys. Hartford, Connecticut, the Boston area, and his father says $1,000 to anybody can knock my kid on their ass. And I'm talking to Vinny, and I said, Vinny, you remember Rocky Point? And he's like, Rocky Point. I said, yeah, I remember when you from the broken neck and your dad had the $1,000 and he's flashing it. He says, any of you guys knock my kid in my ass gets this $1,000. And he's like, Rocky Point. And it was like, bro, I said, I got a goon bar right here. And man, I love boxing. Muhammad Ali, shit. I think I loved Ali more than I love my father. And
real quick, I'll tell you a very funny Vinny Pazienza father, Angelo Pazienza story. He was fighting Roberto Duran June of 1994 at the MGM. It's on pay-per-view, and I was the matchmaker for the unofficial matchmaker for the show. They let an old timer out there who died just a few years later, Mel Greb, be the official matchmaker. But I was the one that made the matches. So as I was only in my third year of boxing at the time, and Mel felt like he was getting slighted. So you know how it goes, politics. But it was good. I got paid, so it didn't matter. But anyways, this is really funny. Angelo was holding court at the lobby bar at the MGM, and they used to call it the Betty Boop bar. And he told the reporters that night, he says, my son, he could have beaten Sugar Ray Robinson. And one of the reporters, from England was there, yells out, hurry up, emergency. Get an ambulance right away. The man's crazy. Take him away. Security come up and started grabbing Angelo like he was crazy. So the reporter says, I was only kidding. So anyways, that was Angelo. So his son could have beaten Sugar Ray Robinson.
He's a local legend, bro. Everybody's seen Angelo. They know where he hangs out. They know his shop. And Angelo, you want a Rolex, so you won't worry about losing. You go see Angelo. You know what I'm saying, man?
Yeah, no, I know. He's now left us. He's now left us, but he left quite an imprint on a lot of people. There's no question in boxing. There's no question about that.
No, but see, since I got back into boxing and getting on the internet, I'm noticing I was just a fight guy. I didn't pay much attention to anybody behind the scenes besides like King and Arum. But now I'm finding all these characters, yourself included. I say that affectionately, bro. But I'm finding it interesting, and I'm learning more about the business of boxing. I'm seeing why the fights weren't made like they were back in the day. I'm hearing about guaranteed contracts, and fighters that they've got to get the it's just so much more involved in it now. It's not just fight together.
Remember something back then. There was very few forms of income for a fight. It was the gate and TV and the biggest fights were all closed circuit. Today, it's worldwide distribution rights. It's the bar networks. That's called a commercial distribution, and then there's international TV rights and streaming rights. So it's a lot more sophisticated today than it was then because of technology. And technology's brought more money to boxing because it's now more worldwide than it ever has been. Just like somebody said to me, how come Al Heyman, when he fought what's his name? Plant, he gave him like $50 million, and he can't. Okay, and he gave Plant 10 million, but he can't give Spence and Thurman, but I mean, and Spence and Crawford, but this much, which is much smaller, because it's about worldwide television rights. Canelo worldwide, okay, is huge. Okay, huge. Okay, Spence and Crawford almost nil. Big difference right there, almost nil. So there you go.
And so, and all this dictates how fast the fight is made. But yet, are they gonna like for instance, we just saw Deontay Wilder, beat Ortiz. Now, and we saw Andy Ruiz. You know what I'm saying? We saw Ruiz and
Ortiz,
and we're waiting to see Wilder and Helenius. Now, do you think that fight will be made after if Helenius, the winner of Helenius and Wilder against Ruiz? Because it's kind of like it's.
Well, I don't know. Excuse me for interrupting. I don't know that because I don't know we don't know what Wilder has left. If he beats Helenius and he shot, they might not put him in Ruiz or they may.
But what I was getting at, bro, shouldn't it be like a foregone conclusion where these world markets are ready for that? So it's not just sprung upon them. Because
those worldwide markets go by how many sponsorship dollars that they can bring in. So in other words, let's just say you call up a country and you want 400,000, 500,000 for the rights to that small country. Let's just say you do 250 or 50, whatever the figure. Well, they'll say, hey, let me get back to you in a couple of days. They call up their sponsors and say, hey, I can get this. Would you sponsor? Will you come up with this? So it goes by budgets, what time of year, how far in advance the fight is. If it's 4 months out, they're going to do the fight. They can get more money because they can go to their sponsors. Hey, it's going to be 4 months down the road. We're going to advertise. We're going to have the fight on. We'll include all your logos on the TV. So that fight will bring more money. Now, if they buy it at the last minute, the network can get it cheaper at the last minute. Okay, but the sponsors will also give them less. So everything is relative to the situation in hand.
One of the things, just to jump in, Bruce, real quick. That's one of the things I've been trying to say for the longest too is folks don't understand that over here when we talk about domestic, numbers, we're talking about domestic. We're not thinking about what's being, bartered or not bartered, but negotiated overseas. When we're talking about different networks and stuff like that, the extra money that's coming from that, and a lot of these numbers that we get in are domestic numbers, but we're getting it for domestic fighters. And then when people want to challenge the numbers of someone else that's coming from Europe per se, right? They're not considering the fact that they have their own domestic numbers, and then what you're seeing over here are the numbers from here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a totality that we're not getting.
I'll give you an example. Okay, Porter got $4 million, and he was a mandatory to fight Crawford. Okay, that fight does shitty on foreign TV. 2 Americans, no big deal, right? Okay. When he fought Amir Khan got $5.5 billion or 5 million. 5 million. Why? Because the UK. A lot of the Muslim countries bought it because he's Muslim. Okay, Pakistan, India, the Middle East. That's why he got paid more money. Same thing with Kell Brook. Why did he get paid more money? The UK. Big money from the UK for Kell Brook. That's why he got big money for the fight. And he wasn't a mandatory. They can command more money because the TV money is there internationally for guys like that. But 2 Americans fight like Spence and Crawford, no, you can get some money, but peanuts compared to these other guys. Peanuts. Just like they got peanuts for Crawford and Porter. Same thing.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you, who are the pay-per-view stars of today? Because I see, as far as over here in the U.S., because I see none. There's one.
Crawford. Sorry, Chris Crawford. I'm sorry. Canelo's as big as it gets right now, and when Wilder fought Fury. But remember, Wilder needed a dance partner, and Fury needed a dance partner, and they won't do the pay-per-view numbers without each other over here. Fact.
Absolutely.
Now, do you think pay-per-view is really going to be a consideration anymore? Everybody streams a fight, bro. I stream fights. Everybody I know. I don't know a soul who bought the Luis Ortiz and Ruiz fight. Man,
Well,
I don't know what people.
let me, Bruce. I'm going to explain it the best way I know how. You ready? The guy who's a complete diehard hardcore boxing fan like yourself, and I call them boxing enthusiasts, by the way, because you're paying to. Most people are paying to watch, whether it's a Showtime Premium TV or whatever. But let's say let's put it this way: the hardcores are going to know how to get it for free.
I'm a
The
pirate.
general sports fan does not know how to get it for free. And they're not aiming for that market. They're aiming for hardcores, and hardcores are paying for it. They're going to get it for free. So they're aiming for the wrong market reality.
You think that the way they show it now, do you think they have to like improve, maybe make it like a virtual pay-per-view? Use technology.
What they need to do, this is what they need to do. Okay. And I've said this all along. They cannot have the main event starting at 12 o'clock at night.
Oh.
They got to come on at 8 o'clock at night. They got to show a fight, okay? One fight. They got to show the main event, and then the two fights after that, the walkout bouts that a lot of people don't give a shit about, come after. It doesn't mean they're not the main event. It's just that you don't bring them on at 12, 1 o'clock, 11:30 at night. You bring them on at let's say 9:30 or 10 o'clock. So the guy wants to shut his eyes and go to sleep at 11 o'clock. He's capable of doing so. That's what I think they need to do is one thing that need to change. They need to market to the general public and stop marketing to boxing diehard general sports fans. They have to market it to. Now, admittedly, Fox does a better job in that area than Showtime does because they get full cooperation from all the Fox stations, where Showtime does not get any commitment from CBS at all, really, to help. And but Fox doesn't even do a good job. They don't tailor their sports shows. They got sports shows on FS1. They have all that kind of stuff. They don't do it right. They just don't do it right. They don't do shoulder programming properly. And like I said, they have to go after general sports fans, not boxing diehards. And they don't. They make a big mistake in that. And I think that's two big areas where they completely screw up. Another thing is they screw up on too many fights that they make a pay-per-view are out bets, 10-1, 12-1, 15-1 in a main event. People aren't buying that shit. The key components to the action in a main event on pay-per-view to the fighters is, are both fighters coming off quality wins? Okay, where people saw that. Okay, this is for a main event, and is who wins up in the air. Now, they don't have to be huge name fighters because everything is relative to what they make. Okay, but I mean, I've seen pay-per-views do 110,000 people and made a fortune. Okay, because the fighters didn't get much. Everything is relative. Okay, but they're not considering those key components. Wilder's coming off 2 knockout losses, recently a face plant. If I was them, I wouldn't put this on pay-per-view. What I would do is I would have Wilder fight Humpty Dumpty. I would have Helenius as the co-feature and announce before the fight, if they both win tonight, then they're going to be on pay-per-view on such and such a date, have the signed contracts in place. And if assuming they both win, they fight. That's all there is to it. But they want to rush everything in. They don't want to do that. And they're not building up fights.
So what you're saying, Rick, is basically they're not, like you just said, they're not putting any kindling below the fire. They just want to kind of they just want.
They talk about marinating a fight. Okay, everybody does, but they don't know how to do it. They don't take the time to do it. Their idea is marinating a fight is keep the fighters away from one another. No, feature them on the same show. Yeah. Back-to-back fights right there, or back-to-back weeks like Helenius would fight this Saturday, and next week Wilder fights. If they both win, they're fighting on such and such a date. Have the signed contracts, have the site in place so people can buy tickets, have the tickets ready to go. Do it right. They don't do it right. They
Mhm.
do these fights, and then they say, well, you know, we're going to do this. They need to announce when you go to the podium, you go to the post that night, okay, and there's a fight. The announcer should be able to say he's going to be fighting such and such and such and such a date the next time, because you've got a built-in audience to start with right there. They're already watching on Fox or Showtime on regular. Okay, they don't take that advantage because they don't even know when they're fighting next.
I know what
It's
you mean.
nuts how they.
Remember back in the day where people, when they leave a good fight, they would say, "Hey, so when we're gonna watch it, we're gonna come back for this one. We're coming back to your house for this one," or like they would leave the house and they would start making plans for that next fight because
100%.
yeah.
I remember growing up as a kid watching fights on TV. Okay, and a guy calling me up, friends of mine were fight fans. We were all kids. We used to love the fights. Okay, and all my friends, and then they say, Rick, and they knew I was the biggest fight fan of all. I was the most knowledgeable, I wasn't in the business yet. They go, Rick, do you think they're going to fight now? I said, absolutely. What do you think it's going to be? Madison Square Garden, Vegas? I said, and if I hear it's, Puerto Rican and a Dominican or something, I know it's going to be in New York, not in Vegas. If it's a Mexican versus, maybe it's going to be out in Vegas or LA, you just know. And you tell people that, and they get all juiced up and excited. Today, those same people aren't even fight fans anymore. They're so confusing. And the fighters disappear between fights. My friends aren't even fight fans anymore. It's sad.
That's what I ask all the time. How do you build a fan base if you're fighting once a year? But you know what?
They don't know how to do it because the promoters have too many fighters and they're not concentrating. Just imagine if Heyman had 24 fighters only, and Arum had 24 fighters. These are main event and co-main event type fighters, not the under-round preliminary guys, 4 and 6 round guys. And they were fighting 3-4 times a year like they were supposed to. Imagine how much better this sport would be today. Thank you.
Rick.
Yeah, but Rick, I think it was about 20 plus years now. Don King had King Vision. Mm-hmm. I got a feeling that'll work nowadays if you twerk it, if you tweet it a little bit.
Well,
remember King Vision?
It would work. It would work today because it's the same. It's pay-per-view is what King Vision was. It was just his own pay-per-view. I get it. Okay. I mean, Don and I are very close, and I lived through the King Vision times with him at times, or just doing business with them, even though I wasn't maybe not closely associated with Don. My association with Don didn't start till 2003. Before that, I was doing business with Carl King since '92. But the facts are that nobody takes the time to build. Fights lead to fights. It's not marinating. Marinating is keeping guys away from each other for a long time. This is not marinating. It's just putting the two fighters on the same show or back-to-back weeks and saying, hey, we got a deal. Here's the deal. You win, you win. You guys are fighting each other. Here's what you're getting. Here's the date. Here's the place. And everybody in line. And you announce it as they're fighting. You announce it. If Hellenius wins this fight, he's going to be fighting Wilder if he wins on such and such a date at such and such on Fox pay-per-view or Showtime pay-per-view. They don't do that. They leave you hanging by your balls. When that night's over, you have no idea what's next for either fighter, but you had a built-in audience that you didn't build on.
Exactly.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You know who followed that model? And he's worth $500 million right now. This is a guy called, Master P. Every time he put out an album, and this was a real album where you could read it, on the back of the album, it would say, such and such as album is coming out, boom. And then after that, he just put out albums like that. Every album told when somebody else's album was coming out because he had like 30 rappers or whatever, right?
That's the way it's got to be. I mean, people don't understand. Fights are supposed to lead the fights, and you're supposed to have the info for the fans. You got 300, 400,000 people watching that night and the next week, or if you combine them on the same show. Tell the people what's up, so they look forward to it. They can follow it on social media, and they can follow it in the media, and you got a built-in audience. You say, "Oh my God, who's going to win this fight? They both just won. Look, they both scored impressive now. Wow, look at this." They don't do that.
Let me ask you this, Rick. I mean, that well, what you're talking about. I grew up in the days of network boxing. I mean, like you're saying, man, they'd fight at one weekend. 2 months later, the winners would fight each other, and it built onto these. We watched guys like Aguayo just move up and just beat Jim Mott and move all the way up to Pryor. But it was through win after win and exposure on network television. Why doesn't network television get into boxing anymore? Is boxing so toxic that they don't want to deal with it?
No, they can't. Network TV can't compete with what the cable companies and the apps are putting in the boxing to surpass network TV. That's the reason. Now they could be in the prior generation. They couldn't compete with HBO, so the biggest fights were going on HBO because they had the biggest pockets. That's what happened to network boxing.
And
but I think
will we ever see Friday night fights or Tuesday night fights again, or a concept?
We do have Friday night fights with ESPN. Sometimes they run on Fridays, sometimes they run on Saturdays. So we do have it. That's ESPN. So yeah, we do. So
but network's out of the picture, huh?
Yeah, I don't see. I think the networks are turning to streaming now, and I think Paramount's going to have one. Peacock's going to have boxing. Paramount's going to have boxing on their apps, and I don't think it'll be on network TV anymore at all. Zero.
no, but I always
if it's on anybody, it'll be on Fox. But but maybe.
I always liked it on network TV. I can tell you why, because it was a farming system. That's where you got to meet the fighters. Because, they always told their backstories before the fight. That's how I got to understand Tyrone Trice, Julian Jackson, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys a great story real quick. It's not great. It was great in my life. I watched TV and I watched Marvelous Marvin Hagler win the world middleweight title when he stopped
Alan Minter.
Alan Minter over in England. His mouth guard flew into the Minter's mouth guard flew into the eighth roll, and all of a sudden beer bottles were getting rained on Marvelous Marvin Hagler and the Petronelli brothers. So I went to lunch one day with Goody Petronelli in Brockton. This is back in like 93, 94. I went to lunch with him. I was only a couple years in the boxing, started in 91. I says, Goody, I got to ask you a question. I've been dying to answer questions. I knew I was going to have lunch with you. Rick, what is it? You're buying lunch. Anything you want to ask me, I'll answer because you're buying lunch. Well, thanks, Goody. So anyways, I says, what was you thinking? What were you thinking when the beer bottles were getting rained on your head? He says, I've never seen beer bottles so loud inside a fight. And I was even shocked it was happening. I said, well, you worried about getting hurt? He said, well, I was more worried about Marvelous Marvin. He says, yeah, I had a little hair on my head. Marvelous Marvin didn't. So there you go. So he's more concerned about his fighter. So it was a different era.
What a Saturday afternoon that was too, bro, huh?
It was unbelievable.
Oh.
It was unbelievable. The walkout, the boos that Marvelous Marvin got. I mean, crazy.
And Hagler was my man too from Brockton. That's only 20 minutes away.
One of my all-time favorite fighters. A funny thing, Duran's one of my all-time, Marvelous Marvin. And on November 10th, 1983, they fought each other. And of course, as we know, Marvelous Marvin won a split decision. But do you know what's unique about that fight, Bruce, Key, and Troy? You know what's unique about that fight?
What's that?
If that fight would have taken place 5 months later, it would have been a 12-rounder, and Duran would have won because he was ahead after 12 rounds.
He got a lot of those rounds from sentimental value. But yeah, bro, I went to see Hagler train at the Provincetown Inn, and at a little town in Massachusetts, right at the.
I know it well.
Okay, bro. He used to train at the inn there. I stayed there with my wife. They had a package deal. It was $69 for 2 nights, 2 dinners, and you got to see Hagler train by the poolside, man. And he was bringing guys in there. He had Don Lee as a sparring partner. He had
Rocky Fratto as a sparring partner.
Oh man, it was incredible. And Hagler beat him so bad. I had Hagler's blood on my T-shirt, and man, that's my best memory of seeing Hagler. And it was great, man. He was an animal, and he did those dunes at 6 a.m. He waited till the sun rose, and he let anybody run with him. I was too hungover to do that. But
you know what's funny about Marvelous Marvin? Okay, it was that he was such a gentleman with boxing gloves off outside the ring, very gracious, a gentleman. But once he was in the ring, it was a whole different guy. A friend of mine he was training for the Duran fight, and it was in Palm Springs. I believe it was a Duran fight. He was training in Palm Springs. And a friend of mine was a Chrysler dealer at the time, and he was at a country club, and they were having their national conference there, not a convention, a conference amongst the top 20 Chrysler dealers in the country. And he walked up to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. He says, Marvelous Marvin, my name is Robert Bob Shanks, and I'm a Chrysler Plymouth dealer from Buffalo, New York, and I want to say you're one of my favorite fighters. And Marvelous Marvin said to him, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Really? I really appreciate you telling me that." And he stood there and talked to him like for 20 minutes and signed autographs for people as they were walking by. And he was just a gracious guy, completely a different guy than the fighter, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. So I think that's very special about him. There's no question about that. It's a very unique trait that he had.
Yeah, I get to speak to him on a human level like that too, and I noticed a lot of warmth there, a lot of real genuine human being, and
another thing is he was extremely polished and well mannered. I mean, very polished and well mannered. I was very, and I don't mean because he was a fighter, just because of the fact of how extreme it is for a fighter to be that polished and that kind and willing to do those kind of things. So it was very impressive, to be honest with you.
Let me ask you a question about Hagler on a subject. I'm sorry, Troy. Just one more question.
No problem.
This was when Hagler fought Wilfred Scipion at the Providence Civic Center. It was for the inaugural vacant IBF title. But yet Hagler was WBA and WBC, but those titles weren't on the line. And I was kind of astounded after I saw that, how the WBA and the WBC title, they would have been vacated if Hagler had lost that fight. That you don't see that anymore. And
because remember the IBF was getting off the ground, and boxing was not. Boxing was more mainstream then. So now it's more niche. So more of a niche sport today. So you had them wanting to be mainstream, so they allowed that everybody allowed that to happen.
Yeah, you don't see non-title fights anymore.
No, you sure don't. You definitely don't. I want to say goodnight to everybody. It's 10:30. I'm still married, and I have a wife to attend to. But I want to say that if anybody out there that's listening wants to follow me on Twitter, it's at Real Rick Glazer 1. There's a lot of Real Rick Glazer 1 fake accounts out there, and I'm sorry to say that, but I've got a little over 5,000 followers, and I came on in January 2020. The fake ones all came on later on after that, and also the other ones don't have anywhere near the followers. So I answer all boxing questions on there. If you follow me, you can call me. If you don't follow me, you can't call me. That's the rule.
Follow me on Bruce Gas, my brother, and I'll follow you.
Thank you very much.
God bless
you. Real Rick Glazer.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll follow up with you about that other situation.
Absolutely. And I look forward to being on the show again. And you can bring Bruce on earlier. You don't hide him on me like this time.
I invited him, man. He's the one that was hiding, man.
I was on another panel and I saw your notification come up. And then I saw Rick talking, and I just saluted you and said, "Come on on." I'm like, "Shit, man."
Well,
so I guess we got off that one, and good to meet you, my brother.
I want to thank you. You too, Bruce. I want to say good night to Troy. Get well, Troy. He's good. You're a good man. And Major Key, had a very nice time. Thanks for the invite, and I look forward to being on here again whenever you guys are ready. And like I said, it's on Twitter at Real Rick Glazer 1. Got 5,000 followers. You can anybody can be a follower. Okay. Have a great evening.
You too,
enjoyed the conversation immensely. You guys asked great. All three asked great questions, and did demand great answers, which I like.
Yeah,
Thank you, gentlemen.
And Rick, I'm gonna hold you to that chicken wing fest thing that they have in Buffalo, man. I
They
always say
just they just
I'm
they
gonna come
just
up.
had it a week ago, and it was it's so big now. They went from the baseball stadium downtown to the NFL football stadium. That's how big it got.
Wow.
So there you go.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
gentlemen,
all right,
it was
all
All right,
right,
brother.
an
man. Have a good
absolute
night,
Have a
brother.
pleasure.
Have a
great
good
Bruce,
night.
nice meeting you,
Yeah.
and Major Key and Troy, always an absolute pleasure. Thank
Sure.
you very
Have
much.
a great night,
Bye
brother.
bye.
Thanks a lot, man. All right, man. So yeah, man. Before we shut it down, Bruce, anything that you want to talk about as far as the previous topics? Because I know you were busy, like you said, you were on another panel. Anything that you want to chop up about the previous topics?
No, bro, it was just cool just coming on, and I thank you so much for the invitation. You and Troy, and I never talked to Rick Glazer before, and I've heard all different stories about him. Some people love him, some people they say he's a racist. I don't see any racist in there, and
No, yeah, yo, his wife is a beautiful black woman, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, like I was saying earlier, man.
He's an old school guy that's got his ways. He thinks the way he thinks. He's been in the business for 31 years. Some people don't like his opinions. That's their problem, bro. Like,
I only know boxing.
Yeah.
This is new to me, meeting these behind the scenes guys. And
Yeah.
bro, I form my own opinions, and I see the guy as a very knowledgeable guy. I just want to keep my mouth shut and listen to him. He's got some fucking stories. He's met the cats. He's touched flesh with these people, and man, he's the real deal. So shout out to Rick Glazer, man. Salute.
Yep, definitely. Well,
Let me
salute to you
say-
as well, man.
Yeah, let me say
I was
this.
just saying salute to Bruce as well for coming on because like I said, remember when we started doing these things, Troy? I always said, yo, I like bringing Bruce on. One of the reasons why, because he's an old school guy, and so old school people connect with him a lot. Because I'm a younger guy, you're a little bit older than me, Troy. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like levels to this, right? So I'm
Close
like,
to the grave. That's all, bro.
no, I mean, hey, listen, I'm true to me. You know what I mean? I'm good all day in my body, but my soul spills out to everybody. But you guys connect on that level because you guys can have those memories of the same exact thing. So it's a beautiful thing. I like to watch it too. I like when you guys come and connect and do that because then I can start picking up on those little things, right? Yeah, I know. You guys were just talking about, and when I put you on the screen. Who comes up right behind you, Marvin? You see what I'm saying? So I noticed that, and I'm sure Rick noticed that as well. But go ahead, Troy. My bad, man. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I was gonna say thank you for everyone that always comes out and supports, man. Because I've been different panels, which I'm not gonna name, and heard these people. Well, I have 5,000 followers, 5,000 subscribers. I got 8,000, but you're not touching anybody. And what Bruce said that he's never spoke to Rick Glazer and it meant something to him. How many times have we heard that? We've heard that a lot, right?
Yeah.
So this is why we come out to do it. Kind of like Kane in the Batman movie. We actually do this for you. We do it for you. Yeah, this is why I enjoy doing it. Major Key gonna drive the car for a while, man, because I ain't, But yeah, Major Key's driving, and I'm just a passenger. Just falls asleep most of the time. But thank everybody for coming out, man. We definitely appreciate it. If it's your first time, please like it, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and tell all your friends so we could all be friends. All right, and come back.
Hey, listen, man. I got noise in the back. My wife wanted me to get off, so she started burning something on purpose. So you hear the
peace out, my brothers.
Bruce.
Oh, Dad, he left, man. I was gonna tell him I got that book.
Oh, we'll chop it up, man. Yo, shout out to everybody, man. Love and respect to everybody in the channel, man. In the chat, I appreciate you guys coming through, man. Man, love and respect, man. Another distant debate. Oh, and next week we're gonna have Julian Jackson, Richie Popeye Rivera. I'm hoping to get 2 other names on. So just stay in tune, you know what I mean? But definitely Julian Jackson said he's coming through. So as long as that is all coming to fruition next week, we'll have Julian the Hawk Jackson back next week, as well as Richie Popeye Rivera.
Yep, and I'm not letting anything out the bag, but we might have another 160-pound legend coming on with Julian Jackson. But hey, you got to come back to see, baby. You got to come back to see.
Exactly. Yo, with that being said, yo, love y'all. Have a great night. All right, peace.